Welcome to Museum Archipelago. I'm Ian Elsner. Museum Archipelago is your audio guide through the landscape of museums. Each episode is never longer than 15 minutes, so let's get started. I work as a programmer for a company that makes interactive museum exhibits. I work with a set of assumptions about the efficacy of interactive media. A few days ago, a tweet came to my attention. The tweet read, "Yo, museum professionals. Exhibitions aimed at kids should not include interactive screens in galleries. You're undermining your mission." This is not a new argument. I encounter this line of thinking all the time. Screens are bad. Well, of course, they are necessary for us adults, but can we at least spare the children? It sounds like the writer of this tweet, New York Times Magazine contributor Jody Rosen, had just been to a museum. He followed up the tweet by saying, "Kids satellite those screens like moths around a light bulb, indifferent to whatever's on display. They can't help it. I get that screens can enrich a show," he writes. "Augment wall text with extra info and digitize primary sources, etc. Makes sense for adults or older kids." He finishes by saying, "There are enough screens in kids' lives. Museums should be sacrosanct, screen-free zones. Let them bug out on dinosaur bones." Screens in museums is nowhere near the most important issue museum professionals face today. It might not be worth mentioning except for one thing: the reaction to this post by some other museum professionals. I was shocked that the responses to this tweet didn't address what I see as the obvious counterpoint. The responses centered around agreeing with the general premise that kids should be protected from screens, or offering excuses for the screens because museums compete against other forms of screen-based entertainment. It was disappointing to hear museum professionals not defend their work or methods. My defense of interactive screens in museums is simple. The concepts that museums are tasked with teaching aren't tangible anymore. An interactive screen can teach global climate change in a way that an object can't. To use Jody's example of kids bugging out over dinosaur bones, 100 years ago, the concept that a museum like the National Museum of Natural History was trying to teach was, these creatures used to be here and they were big. Today, every child knows that dinosaurs existed because of non-museum media. The concepts that the museums want to communicate about dinosaurs are now much deeper. That the age of dinosaurs was one of many epochs, itself divided into important distinct stages, that the predator-prey relationship of dinosaurs is similar to what we observe with non-extinct animals today, that the dinosaurs were victims of mass extinction event. The list goes on, but it's much more complex than it used to be. Museums are happy to take on this rising complexity. One of the tools at their disposal is artifacts, and another one of the tools at their disposal is screens. We expect much more out of young students than we used to. The best concepts museums can teach aren't obvious from just artifacts. Bugging out on dinosaur bones is great, but be careful about saying that it teaches kids everything that they need to learn about dinosaurs. We would be disappointed by a museum that simply presented the bones without any contextual information. Interactive media can provide that information through the use of simulations or games in a way that an object and a plaque can't. Of course, there's a balance. Museums shouldn't only be screens. The fantastic physical interactives in San Francisco's Exploratorium do a great job of presenting the concepts without any screens. Part of the design process should always be to question whether or not a screen needs to be there. But saying that there are enough screens in children's lives is just like saying there are enough books in children's lives, which is actually what people used to say. As museum professionals, we should be able to defend our work, and it's important that we don't get stuck in the way education used to be. This has been Museum Archipelago. We hope you enjoyed your visit. For more information or to submit feedback, go to museumarchipelago.com or museum_go on Twitter. Next time, bring a friend.